Welcome back to the Two Guys, Two Dogs, Four Wheels, and in this week's vlog I'm going to be talking motorhome prices, I'm talking driving licences, and I decide to write to my MP, so stay tuned to see exactly what it is I would like some answers to. Here we are then, guys. It is mid-June and it does not seem 2 minutes since we were travelling round France. This week I want to take another dip into looking at the motorhome prices, where the market is at. And there's a couple of things really I want to bring to life with that. One, things still seem fairly static and the stock levels of motorhomes on forecourts are still quite high and are still quite stable, but still quite high. What we are seeing, some of the dealers where they're offering good deals, good discounts, particularly on the new vehicles, you can see quite a few of those coming through. Now you know this, a lot of them are advertising the fact on their social media, and you can see collections and sales being advertised quite heavily. The other thing I'm noticing is the marketing from some of the dealers as well. There's a lot more presence this year on Instagram, on Facebook, on YouTube and on TikTok, and you'll see lots of mini adverts, lots of mini clips advertising the vehicles that they have and the discounts they are offering at a level I haven't seen for quite some time. So there is a real push from some of these dealers right now to try and get some of these vehicles moving.
Looking for an affordable motorhome? Ideally a brand new one, fresh out the box, and one that you won't have to remortgage your home for? Well, buckle up as I show you 8 reasons why Joacamp might be the motorhome for you. Bon voyage, people! Number 1, the features. Joacamp don't only show up, it shows off. It's got all the home comforts you'll need in a motorhome. The Joacamp has an awning, it has a solar panel. Reversing camera? Of course it has one. Fully fitted kitchen? Even Fanny Credit will make a stunning roast in this kitchen. It has everything you would want, even things you didn't know you needed. Butterfly table, anyone?
Do you, like me, drink your cup of tea with your pinky? Have you got a picnic box? Or do you wear a tuxedo to Nando's? The new two are elegance. Like this, the burst of elegance.
If you think Sonic's a little blue hedgehog, you're wrong. This is a Sonic.
So there I just gave you a flavour of some of that marketing that is going on social media. What I'm also noticing is some of the 2023-2024 unsold new stock seems to be moving through. I think some of the heavy discounts that dealers have placed on some of that, possibly the manufacturers behind it, particularly with things like Adria, a lot of their 23-24 stock seems to be shifting through. I am seeing a fair bit though still on some of the homegrown vehicles, so some of the eldest Swift and Auto Trail, there are some kicking around still, and some of the European, the Continental vans in the 2024 model year. There's quite a few of those in the dealers as well. Also noticing that there's quite a lot of the A-Class and the premium A-Class vehicles still kicking around, and again there are some big discounts on some of those at that higher price point, remember, but it is worth having a little look around if that is the market for you. So what I'm going to do here is give you a little flavour, a shorter flavour this month of just some of the discounts that are being applied. They are getting bigger on some vehicles, so take a look, take a little shop around and see what you can see if you're in the market for a new one. And I will also give you a little look at our spreadsheet, just so you get a sense of what is happening with the settling of used prices. So I'll stick that in for you as well. Getting into the price tracker then, like I've already indicated, a lot of the 2023-2024 Adrias are starting to shift through. So there has been quite a few sales there. Prices are fairly static with the Adrias though. Auto Trail, there's been a little dip across the board. There are quite a few of those for sale, more on the forecourts than there were last month. In terms of Bailey, again, no big difference, although there is quite a flux of Adamos on the forecourt, so a little dip in the 2022 75.4i there again this month. Eldis is the one that seems to be seeing a variable picture. There are some price reductions coming through on some models. There's a lot of Encores out there, for example. But some of the smaller vehicles, the ones that are 6 meters or so, seem to be holding well at the moment. But Swift continues to see a mixed picture. The older edges are starting to come down, but it's fairly static in the Contiki. And the Escape seems to be up and down depending on how many are on the forecourts at the moment. So no real big difference, other than overall, when you look at the number of 2018 onwards used vehicles for sale, there's still around 5,000 vehicles sitting on dealer forecourts, so no real big shifts compared to this time last month. So there you've just seen the overview of the prices that I'm tracking with particular vehicles at the moment. My feeling with this is, though, dealers are sitting on a lot of stuff, and those dealers that aren't shifting some of the vehicles that I'm watching that have been around for a little while, they probably pay too much for them. They probably put out a lot of money for them relatively when they took them in part exchange, and they're wanting that money back. But what that's resulting in is the inflated prices on some of these used vehicles. Now, I get that we've had some inflation overall, and that does apply to all goods and services that are being sold, but the price of some vehicles, particularly the stuff that is 10 years plus, now just seems a little bit excessive. And I still think there's a long way to go, and some dealers are going to struggle to sit on some of those vehicles for much longer. Now, we've got a situation here that could echo what has already gone through with the caravans. You know, dealers were sitting on lots of stock, they were sitting on lots of unsold stock, and some dealers didn't cope with that. We lost quite a few last year, and some big names too. And the dealers that seem to have thrived are the ones that have taken the smaller hit on shifting their caravan stock through and getting fresh stock in at the new level at the appropriate Partex price to put them back out on the forecourt at a slightly lower level during 2025. Seem to be the ones that are doing okay. And my worry here is that the motorhome market could follow if we're not careful. Something is going to have to give. That's just my view. So what is happening with driving licences? Well, last week, the 10th of June, as I'm putting this out, the laws changed on what you could drive on your standard driving licence if you had your category B. And you are now permitted to drive up to 4,250 kilograms for hydrogen or electric vehicles. Now, the government have made this move in order to support industry, I guess, your typical DPD, Amazon drivers and so on, and opening up the ability for drivers who work for those companies to be able to drive the vehicles that have got the increased mass, particularly those that are electric and are a little bit heavier because of the batteries. Now, some of this follows what we had with the B and E on your driving licences for towing caravans that came in a couple of years ago, and that had a real impact in supporting the caravan market, particularly for younger families coming into the leisure vehicle world. What this has missed out, though, is the petrol and diesel vans in effect up to 4,250. So we cannot have a situation at the minute where anybody with a driving licence post 1997 can go out and buy a motorhome over 3.5 tonnes. So that bit still hasn't been resolved. So good news in one way, but a trick has been missed. And I think that is going to be a challenge going forward, because electric motorhomes, camper vans, are still a little way off, and the deadline now of 2035 is 10 years away. And I know that's a good chunk of time to develop the tech, but the weight of these vehicles is still going to be an issue going forward. So there needs to be some consideration here from government about what they're going to do to inject a bit of life into the motorhome market. Now, I've described that nearly 10,000 vehicles that are for sale across Auto Trader right now. Almost 10,000 used motorhomes, and a good chunk of those are above the 3,500 kilograms. So unless they do something, newer entries into the motorhome market aren't going to be able to access a lot of those vehicles. And particularly for families who may be looking at an older vehicle to get into, they might not be able to access one that gives them the payload that they need for a family, as well as the space and the luxury that they need to take their family with them. So this is still a missed opportunity. And it is something that I'm quite passionate about now, trying to get some answers to. And that brings me on to the next point. I have written to my MP. So this week I took some time to write to my local MP. That's Lee Barron. He serves East Northamptonshire. And I've kind of put this position to him about the driving licence situation and whether there is any scope to start to explore a special consideration or an additional category on the licences for owners of motorhomes, and also to allow a broader spectrum of people to get into them. And what I've proposed to him is a conversation around the New Zealand model, where you've got a slightly larger permissible weight to the vehicle, the MTPLM overall, and whether we could look at something like that here in the UK. It just seems common sense to me that as a minimum we have something like 3,850 that would allow for a decent vehicle and a decent payload for a family and all your stuff you need to take to get on the road. And this might inject a little bit of life back into the market. So email has gone off to Lee Barron this week, and I intend to keep you posted to see what I get back from that. And I'll keep you posted, because I'm keen to keep going with this one to try and get some answers. And if anyone is keen on supporting me with this or feels it's something that's worth doing, then please do get in touch, drop us a message or a direct message through our website. I do think something needs to be done, and I think my answer would be a special consideration on the driving licence, maybe something like a C1NH, which is just defined as for motorhome owners, and that's the only permissible bit you've got over the 3.5 tonne, because those changes in the licences just ain't going to do it if we're going to try and keep the motorhome ownership and interest in motorhoming for new generations coming through. So watch this space. So that, folks, is the update this week. We are back out on the road. We've got a trip to Ferry Meadows coming up the end of June. And I think we've also got a stay booked at Warwick Racecourse in July. And then we will be heading towards our summer tour where we're off to France and Spain. And that is now all booked. The shuttle is all booked. The dogs are booked in for their checks. And we'll be heading off into Europe once again over the summer break. So I will get some more content out for you shortly. I will keep you posted when I know more about a reply, if I do or don't get one from the MP. And like I say, if you're interested, get behind me on this one, and we'll see if we can get some traction to support the motorhome world. On that note, I'll leave you be. Have a great week, folks. And we'll see you very soon. Take care.